What's this? Where am I? What's this note? What does this say? Okay, hold up. Hello, Amintech. You have called yourself an undead, and now I'm here to take you to task. You will know the true meaning of undeath, since I have ended your time here on this mortal coil. And now you will serve me in creating an army of warriors and generals to lead my armies. My powers are locked away for now, and I need you to take over this land. Once you control enough, I will relay you your next mission, and to help you with this quest, I shall lend you a human necromancer. Do not fail me. From that point on, I knew my mission, and just like the letter said, beside me there was a living human, Gunther Larenshield. He told me he was commanded by an unknown force, and just appeared here, just like me. He had none of his tomes or spells, so he had to learn, just like I did. I commanded him to go talk to a local skeleton to see if they could help us out. Apparently, it did not go very well. He ran up to me in fear and told me that the Tomb Kings are the true owners of this land and would eliminate anyone who stood in their way. In that moment, I knew that if the Tomb Kings told anyone that we were here, there would be major trouble. Gunther also told me that he found a book that would help us in the upcoming battle. He told me that it would help him summon zombies to help us fight. I don't think we would have survived that fight without the aid of these zombies and the pack of undead minotaurs that I summoned. I learned that I could actually get them if enough souls could be collected. But I currently was still very weak, and I knew that if I stayed here, only issues would arise. So I fled north to Al-Hayik, where a group of necromancers lived. See, if we could take over that place, we could raid their lairs and learn more about the summoning and magics of death. They came down to fight with me with all they had to bear, surrounding us with zombies and skeletons. The battle raged on with the blessing of undeath upon me. Sadly, Gunther fell in battle, but from his body came forth a ghost ready to reap the life force from everyone around it. We fought hard, and once the necromancer fell to the ghost of my friend, the magics holding everything together was released, and the battle was ours. I did mourn my friend. During that last battle, we learned camaraderie, and I was very sad. I would never fight by his side again. And now I was alone. I knew I needed others by my side. I can't complete this alone. But none of these tomes told me how to get to the heroes of old. Even while looking at what I could build in our new home, there was nothing that allowed me to raise any heroes or lords. While looking through the tomes, I found a book talking about the Lord of Undeath. His name was Nagash. Is this the one who sent me that note? The one who commanded me? For now, I have a bunch of questions, but I need to focus on the task at hand. Soon, the deeds of my battle with the necromancers hit the ears of a Heteroi, and asked me if he could join my army. He would make a valuable ally, so I welcomed him into my party. Right before I made my next move, there was a bell that rang throughout the camp. A figure in the dark approached. No one knew who it was, save for me. It was Gunther, my old companion. He told me that after the battle, his soul rejoined his body, and he had full control over it. From this point on, he will never truly fall in battle. Overjoyed, we marched forward into the north to take over Faris. This will be no easy fight, but we need to rely on these summons. In order to pull the winds of magic to obey my commands, we needed to channel it. And in order to do that, we needed time. Luckily, there was a patch of trees that we could use to our advantage. It seems like this is going to be a valid strategy from here on. By studying more, me and now Gunther could summon skeleton warriors. They were significantly better than the zombies. But it did take more magic to summon them. And with that, it also had a chance to backfire and hurt us. After that win, we looked towards the south, towards Martek, and the dwarves in the mountains. It wouldn't really be the best place for my citizens, but it will be a safe place. A place that my empire will grow in relative safety. To the west was Archon the Black, raging war upon Ponce d'Alliance. Seeing that Arkan was also touched by undeath, I offered my hand in trust, asking for a trade agreement, and he accepted. And now our friendship had just begun to flourish. The Battle of Martek was one for the bards to sing in terror. About 1,500 men, only fighting 3. I knew they had the range advantage with bows and trebuchets, and I was lucky that we met on a field full of trees. Me and my companions used the cover of the trees to block volleys of arrows flying overhead, darkening the sky. But once the men of Bretonnia entered into the woods, they were surrounded by skeleton warriors. Most men didn't survive that day in this woods. Some even fled before it was their time to fight. But from now on, to all the men of Bretonnia, they were terrified. For the ghosts in the forest still stalk there, and the stench of undeath will rule that day. For the next few days, we started and ended our war with the dwarves. After 4 easy battles, we wiped them off the map, and in turn gained our first true province of our own, hidden in the hills away from prying eyes. In the final battle to take the capital, Gunther died one more time, healing in only a few days. But I took this time to go and take Kofur, for Reponse was seabound, and at this time, not only could I summon skeleton warriors, but now undead minotaurs at will without the need for souls. I already fought an army like this at Martek, so me and the Hetoroi could take them down with ease. Upon my winged steed, I flew into the back line, making sure that archers and trebuchets could not fire. And with the summons as support, the only sound left in Kofur was the echoes of the screams of the dead. With that battle won, I had now 2 provinces under my control. And Reponse, now back from the sea, she was on her way, injured from somewhere else. She came back into Kofur, expecting to lick her wounds. She was met with silence and unease. Soon, she was surrounded by my soldiers who were protecting the city, and they welcomed her army into the arms of death, no longer to be seen in this world. At this time, back at the halls of Al-Hayik, we learned about the First Legion, and in turn, the Mortuary Cult. Learning that through canopic jars and some resources, I could finally recruit heroes from the past. And now, the goal of retaking Nekkikara was truly understood. The Great Pyramids would allow me to uncover more jars as we explore them, and expanding my empire would get me the resources to appease the heroes. My researchers then told me that through more research, I could also find more about the Legion's past and the heroes of their own age. With the knowledge about the First Legion, I was also able to raise a new general under my control, who was also another necromancer. Right now, he's not the best, but he soon will be able to raise the undead and command heroes alike. Upon further inspection of our home province, it seems like we have been blessed, for it's one of the best areas for us this early, since it has the resources we need to appease the fallen. We have spices, iron, salt, and diamonds. I decided that now would be the best time to hold still, waiting several days while Gunther went out to learn more about technologies so we could advance our own. And after a while of that, we attacked more humans to take back my homeland. Xandri was now in my sights. But once again, a battle won way too easily. But hey, it was good experience for our new general. The capital of the Cracked Land was being held by Volkmar the Grim, a strong battle priest, and a thorn in my side. His prayers allowed him to chew through the undead, and his followers the religious fervor to fight to the very last. It would not go down easily, so the plan was to take the Black Tower of Arkan as soon as his army left. And once our scouts saw that he did, it was time to retake this city. I swooped in on my flying steed to take care of the archers on the walls while my men were taking the gate. As soon as the doors flew open, they were finished. Every summon I could muster rose from the ground, and I retook my home. Once inside, we found our first possessed hero, Prometheus, and alongside him were 2 wizards. In order to raise Prometheus, we needed to bind the souls of one of those wizards to him, and they became one. He told us about the Second Legion and its ideologies. But now, we have 3 generals and 3 heroes. My army grows stronger every day. Volkmar did not like that I retook the Black Tower, so he attacked our new general outside. Although it was a surprise attack, all but Gunther survived. I did not stand idly by, and I took the fight to Volkmar. This is one of the only times that range was truly an issue. So I flew above them, mocking them as they fired upon me, not realizing that was the plan. I was intentionally wasting their ammunition. Once they ran out, my warriors started the fight. I knew that if Volkmar had his way, he would fight with all of his men, giving prayers and buffs to all of his allies. So I needed to make sure he couldn't do that. So I summoned some zombies on the other side of the battlefield, while my main force fought with his warriors, dismantling his army before he could even join the fray. And only after the rest of his army fell did Volkmar fall, alone. And in turn, completing our third province. Once he fell, the next few days I took over his entire empire, crushing Suddenburg and the Plain of Tuskers. And now, my ally, Archon the Black, felled the final city they owned, Agar. At this time, I also met the Drakenhoof Conclave, and started a wonderful partnership as well. Unfortunately, Cetra the Imperishable saw what was happening to the land that he believed was his. I informed him on the field of battle that no, this was my land, and that he needs to go to sleep once more. As soon as I took care of Cetra, Skarbrand believed me weak, and he tried his hand at wiping me from existence. In other timelines, he may have been right. But here, no, I sent him back to the realms of chaos where he belongs. Once those threats were taken care of, the rest of Nekkara fell to the hands of the Dread King Amentek quite quickly. All of the Great Pyramids were under the control of me and my allies. I pushed further to make sure that Skarbrand did not return, and built a bastion on his once great home, and pushed into the mountains east to control more resources such as obsidian. For all the battles I've won and the pyramids I control, I started going into the tombs of the heroes of the past and raising my true army. Once in the mountains, I had 4 Heteroi and 3 Heldwraiths. My numbers started growing by the day. For every hero, we were able to provide 3 canopic jars a day. That means that every hero I get, the more heroes I can get. During this time, we also learned about the 3rd and 4th legions within. The 4th legion was a cacophony of heroes. There were 10 heroes of old that we could raise with very little resources. At this point, my army was 26 members strong, and it was time for the next step for my unknown benefactor's plan. And soon, we will know his true identity. I was alerted that we had a visitor. It was Archon the Black. He came to us and said that he had a message. He handed me the book and walked away. As soon as this book was in my grasp, I could feel the power surging through me. The power that this book held was overwhelming, but I saw it. A vision of 9 other books throughout the world, and a final vision of him, Nagash. He was the one pulling the strings, and he is the one who gave me this power. I guess it's time to find the rest of these books. Now I had the second part of our plan. Right in front of us, there was an army with the first book. Off to battle we go. We surrounded the first army and fought them. However, most of our heroes were freshly awakened and not very skilled in this life. Still, I had to rely on summons and our heroes from the very beginning. And once our heroes joined the fray, it was 26 on 18. That army was no more. Once the second book was in my hand, the surge of power flowed within me, telling me that I needed to go to the lands of the elves to fetch more books. My army set out for the book in the White Tower of Hoeth, in the middle of elven lands. None of the elves did I suffer to live. I would raze and destroy their homes and lives. Sadly, one of my armies was out in the bay alone, and the elves decided to go to sea and attack them. They fell. I would not stand for that. The next day, I went to Torfinu and razed the city to the ground. At the same time, Primicius went down to Port Elistor and did the same. With that, the only high elves that opposed me were wiped from this plane and was greeted by Nagash. Another rogue army that was roaming outside Lothern had another book that I needed. So, on the way out, we attacked them as well. This army was filled with men of all faiths, but it was no match for the army of the dead. And now in our grasp was the 3rd and 4th book. Both books invading my mind, seeing visions of the future where death rules over all. The power within the book told us that the next book was in the plains of the Druki, so I sailed east to go around Lothern. But there was a whisper of hatred and destruction on the port of our vessel, and there it was, a sword of Cain. It talked to me and told me about the power and the strength that I could have if only I could take it. And why shouldn't I take it? I wanted it. No, I needed it. And for that, my mind was made up. I would take my troops and fight Grom the Paunch, since he had the blade in his hands. He currently was occupying an elven city, so I had to not only attack him, but also his city and another army outside. But for my units, it was nothing. The research we were learning allowed all of my heroes and generals to raise zombies and cast Gaze of Nagash. Taking down Grom himself was tough, but the rest fell soon after, and now the sword was in my hands. There was a question in my mind. This power might corrupt my very soul, and that I actually should reject this blade and return the sword to its resting place. But if I did that, what's the point of this fight? No, I will control this blade, not the other way around. I will make this blade mine. But with that, we traveled north. Back at home, I raised a new army. I told them that they needed to explore the Empire for any books. On the way there, the vampire counts of Sylvania asked for a defensive alliance. One that I initially declined, but soon accepted. But then the world shook, for all of the Chaos Dwarves believed that they were the ones that needed to inherit this world. They used their drills to go across the world in a very short time. But they weren't a threat to me or any of my plans, so I didn't care. I landed in the shores of Nagrand a few days later. Not wanting to start a war, we only spent 5 days on their land, searching for this next book. And there it was, easy pickings. It was only an army of savage orcs and boars. It wasn't anything for me. I told my men to take care of it, and I went on our way. Once back in the rightful ownership, the power within the book told me to go to Hexalotl. Right in the Bay of Nagarand was a sea lane. I was told that it would take me right to my next book in only 2 days, instead of the 14-day trip it normally would be. And since nothing mattered other than these books, I took the sea lane. On the other side of the world, my new armies heard that Altdorf had one of the books locked away, so they headed right towards it. But it would take some days to get to. When we finally landed on the shores of Hexalotl, the rumors were right. It did indeed hold one of the books. Not caring about anything else, I headed straight for my goal and sieged the city. This was the first time I actually had fought the lizardmen not belonging to road armies. And they were formidable. They were not only strong in power, but in toughness, and even the weak ones knew how to cast spells from the stars. It was a hard fight, but a fight I did win regardless. This book told me that the next book was in Lustria. However, their leader, Lord Mazdamundi, did not enjoy being attacked, and used their power to single out Primicius alone. But like a true hero, Primicius fought against all odds and came out on top. To show respect, the next day I confronted Lord Mazdamundi and showed him why I was called the Dread King. My armies were wary from traveling, so even though we're not done, my armies captured a province here just to reconstitute the magic that held them together. It took a day or two, but then we were back on the seas, going for the last book west of Nekakara. My second force of armies finally made it to Altdorf, and noticed that it was empty, thinking this would be easy and we could easily just grab the book and go. But we were wrong. As soon as we walked in the city, an army called the Rancor Hold showed their faces and tried to attack us. Surrounding us on all sides, we fought tooth and bone and lost many men, but inked out a victory. At this time of my book collecting and warmongering had caught up to me. Belagar Ironhammer attacked one of my settlements. But luckily for me, that garrison was not a small army. And then the first big fight at home began. At this point in my empire, I've learned how to make all the units unbreakable, allowing my units to fight to the very end. My men eventually did eliminate all of Belegar's army, and then we took him out in the end, successfully defending our home. After that, my armies swiftly took Kazakaraka in the north, and the final rogue army in the west, making peace with the dwarves and using the drills to get back home, for all of the books are now gathered. It is time to meet at the Black Tower for the final part of this saga. Soon a visage of Nagash appeared before me and spoke.
Now that all the books are here, I will use the pyramid within them to summon my right hand, and he will have the power to unlock the pyramid. And then, and only then, will I be free. You will be granted the title of my left hand, and we will rule this world. All you need to do is sacrifice one of your generals and finish what we started.
With that, Lagus was given the books, and the ritual had begun. With the power of all the books, the hand of Nagash was arisen. It is time for the final assault of the Black Pyramid, having the hand of Nagash lead the assault. Once in front of the gate, the hand of Nagash and his retinue attacked. As the Heteroi flew over to the first defenders, the Hell Race broke down the door, and the rest of the armies went west to intercept the incoming armies. I, on my dragon, with a few heroes, broke down the western gate, trampling any enemies on the side. Once the main center was overrun by my heroes, the only resistance was the army to the west. With the nail in the coffin, Gunther casted Wind of Death, decimating the entire army in one fell swoop, and they all crumbled. With that, the pyramid is ours. Hey everyone, I wanted to try something new. I wanted to do a challenge run and a story in a single thing. But today's challenge, if you can't tell, was can you beat Total War Warhammer 3 with only heroes? And yeah, of course you can. But I unfortunately decided to choose one of the hardest factions to do it on. So there's 3 things that make a hero only run fun. First thing, money. You genuinely get a bunch of money. Since you don't really need to worry about your upkeep, since all your guys are heroes, you get just continuous money where you could focus on hero buildings and bribing people that you don't want to be at war at with money. Second, you get almost unlimited heroes and lords. Most factions let you build buildings that raise your hero cap. And for the armies, the only thing that increases is your upkeep, and 0 times anything is still 0. And 3, most factions have at least one ranged hero, which makes it a lot easier to play. However, let's look at the Tomb Kings. Yes, I know that I'm playing a modded faction here because I really liked that great aesthetic when I looked at it. It looks really, really cool. It's still essentially Tomb Kings regardless. Alright, so the first thing that isn't super fun about Tomb Kings is money. Tomb Kings don't pay upkeep for the troops, so your economy is kind of shit just to balance it out. Second, because you don't need to pay for your troops, there's a limit to the amount of troops you could bring in an army, and that includes your heroes and armies themselves. You only grow your cap by research and the mortuary cult. And none of the buildings that you could build raise the hero cap at all. And 3, of course, this range faction has 0 ranged heroes or lords. However, yes, you do get extra magic and you do get flying things, but you know, even the lords and heroes get flying things even if they're ranged as well. But yeah, it made it a pretty tough one at the very start, but the summons really, really helped. But for now, thank you so much for watching and enjoying this video. And if you liked it, don't forget to like, comment, and drop a sub down below. Anyways, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace, everyone.